Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Richard. I am the founder and executive director of Cinnamongirl Incorporated. Cinnamongirl is a leadership development organization providing access, experiences, and a network of professionals who work directly with our girls, inspiring them to be the visionaries our world needs. Our organization serves over 100 girls every single year. And of those that we serve, many of them will be in the Bay Area's book talks. We have an amazing talk cultivated and curated from our girls and the questions they have for these authors. I know this will be a conversation that you'll enjoy. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Cinnamongirl, please visit us on the web at cinnamongirl.org. And with that, I am delighted to bring you just a few of my beautiful girls.
Welcome to the Bay Area Virtual Book Festival. I'm Mariah McCoy from Cinnamongirl, and I'm excited to talk today with authors Ms. Daven McQueen and Ms. Shay Bravo. Ms. Daven McQueen won the Watty Award for science fiction and is the author of The Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones. Mexican-born Ms. Shay Bravo, who won the 2019 Watty Awards, is the author of Historically Inaccurate. Together, these amazing authors garnered more than, wait for it, 1 million reads on Wattpad. And without further ado, let's get this conversation started. For my first question, can you both provide the audience with a brief summary of the major plot points in your novels? And we'll start with Ms. Daven.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, Mariah. So great to be here with y'all. My novel, The Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones, is about a Black biracial boy named Ethan, set in the 1950s, and he gets in trouble at home where he lives with his white father and is sent to spend the summer in his father's hometown, a small town in Alabama. And there he meets a girl named Juniper Jones who takes him sort of on this adventurous summer as he also is dealing with the racism in this town.
Thank you. And Ms. Shay?
Hi, Mariah. I'm so happy and honored to be here with Daven. My book is Historically Inaccurate. It's about a young Mexican-American girl whose mother was deported her last year of high school, and she is struggling with her emotions and everything that's happening in her life. So she decides to join a community club in her college where they ask her to break the law, and she doesn't really know why, but she goes through with it. And while she's doing what she's doing, she stumbles into Ethan, one of the main characters as well. And it just kind of all falls down from her as she tries to figure out her spot in the world, growing up as an adult and just struggling with the issues in America today.
Thank you. And for my next question, can you briefly explain the process of how you crafted your stories? And let's start with Ms. Shay for this question.
It's strange because I like to start stories kind of by the title itself. When I started writing Historically Inaccurate, I was at a very strange spot in my life. I was very far away from my family. I was going through quite a lot of stuff. And I really wanted to write a story that made me laugh, but at the same time that I could also put a lot of emotion into and some of the things that I was dealing with. So I kind of just started writing the first chapter, and I like to say, and I'm pretty sure I did, I wrote the whole first chapter in one single sitting. And from there on, it just kind of, the main character of Soledad just kind of took my hand and kind of guided me through the process. And I started sharing it on Wattpad and kind of dropped it off for a while. And then last year, before it was published, 2019, God, time passes so fast. I decided to pick it back up again. I decided, hey, I'm going to finish the story. I'm really passionate about it. And I entered it in the Watties, and just kind of went from there. It just took me along to write the book itself.
And I can really see some of that dark humor in some of the chapters, which I enjoyed. How about you, Ms. Daven?
So I actually started writing Invincible Summer for National Novel Writing Month several years ago, I think in 2014. And the premise of it kind of came about. I knew I wanted to write about like a lake town in the summer. But I was 17 at the time, and I was also thinking a lot about my own identity as a biracial person and grappling with all of that. And so the story of Ethan and Juniper kind of came out of that. And then like Shay, I wrote it, and then I kind of left it aside for a while as I went to college, and then sort of picked it back up before publishing it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I could really relate to that story because I'm also biracial, so I could see parts of Ethan's life that kind of match my own, which I appreciated. And the next question, is there anything you have to have with you when you write, like a cup of coffee or a favorite pen or something? And let's start with Ms. Daven.
I actually don't. I could really write anywhere. I just need to like be in the right mindset, which is honestly rare.
Yeah.
I get distracted constantly.
And how about you, Ms. Shay?
So I had a very hard time in COVID because, I mean, everybody has a hard time during the pandemic, but it's very hard for me to write at home for some reason. I like to go out to coffee shops. I used to in college stayed at IHOP till 3 a.m. writing is when I used to do my most writing. And I used to just like my cup of coffee and be able to write and put my art in the flow or whatever. So it's been a little bit harder for me to kind of focus on writing and all that stuff. But yeah, I would say usually a cup of coffee, nice jazz music, smooth jazz playing in the background helps me out a lot.
Okay. And the next question. If you had to choose one word to describe Sol and Ethan in Historically Inaccurate and Ethan and Juniper in The Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones, what would it be and why? And let's start with Ms. Shay.
That's a hard one. I think understanding would be somewhere where I could kind of land because they come from very different backgrounds and their families and their stories are very different. But there's a couple of times in the books where they just sit down and like talk, and they know that their stories are different and their experiences in life have been different, but they try to understand each other as most of they can. And non-spoilers, but yeah, the romance comes towards the end. But a lot of people say, well, the romance was a little either slower or something like that. And it's because I really wanted them to be able to talk, to be able to understand each other throughout their relationship. And Ms. Daven, how about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that we both have main characters named Ethan. Great name.
I'm just like,
but yeah, I would probably say adventurous. I think both of them are adventurous in different ways. Juniper, I mean, it's pretty obvious she will, climb the big tree, roll down the big hill. But I think Ethan is also adventurous in the way that he, is willing to make this friend in this town where he doesn't know anyone, and go along with all of her crazy schemes.
And the next question, what personal experiences, if any, inspired characters or themes in your novels? And let's start with Ms. Daven.
Sure. So like I mentioned a little bit before, sort of the premise of this book came out of me as a high schooler, thinking about like my own experiences as a biracial person and the way that I had like grown into myself, and like my own experiences with racism and anti-Blackness, and how that sort of shaped who I was, and sort of just as I was writing it, I feel like I was really coming to terms with my own identity at the same time. And so in that way, it was sort of for me a book to process a lot of emotions.
And Ms. Shay, how about you?
Yeah, there's a lot of themes, and even if there's not a lot of when it comes to family separation, especially coming into terms as being an immigrant, there's a lot of things that I put of myself in there. Some of the experiences that me and my family have had, the constant dread of being separated from the people that you love. And when that does happen, a lot of family themes and just family separation themes are based on either things that I have lived through, the fear that I have lived through, or just coming into terms with how that shaped me as a person. So similar but different from Daven's answer. And just kind of the way that soul grew and became to understand that even if her family was separated, it's still her family, and she's still connected to her mother, even if she's not there, are a lot of the things that I kind of dealt with as well, not necessarily with my mother, but just in other experiences. And they just helped me through it all. Also dark humor sometimes.
And one thing I just really appreciated is the idea of family. Ethan's mom and Soul's mom, they really played a really big part, even though they were far away. So I really enjoyed that. And what do you both think are the major lessons you want readers to reflect on after reading your books? And Ms. Shay, we can start with you.
I want people, again, and it's not me going back to understanding, but I just want people to have kind of like an open mind to anyone, because Soledad, as she's going through the book, she talks about with Ethan about his family, or with the club leader Anna, and everyone's kind of like going through their own thing, but Soledad is also kind of like just focusing on her story. And the book in general is Soledad's story, but there's a lot of stuff that she also has to understand as she goes through her relationship with Carlos, her relationship with her friend Diane, how she sees bursts of them through it all, and she's still dealing with all the hardships that she's dealing with. And it's this strange kind of crazy found family that she finds in the club, which again, no spoilers, towards the end, a lot of stuff happens that she realizes the more she talks to people, the more she feels at ease with those people. And I want people to be able to be understanding and be open to make friends and talk to people, and kind of like not judge one another, if that makes sense. Just in general, be open-minded, I suppose.
Yeah, and I actually learned that you know a little bit about a person, but there's so much you don't know, and just talking to them, it can reveal a lot, which is awesome. And Ms. Daven, how about your book?
Similar themes to Shay, actually. I would say the biggest thing for me was to really explore friendship. A lot of people, when I was writing it, asked me, is this a romance? And I'd always have to be like, no, like it's definitely not. It's about friends. Oops, sorry, I live on a train line. But yeah, I think I really wanted to communicate the power of platonic love and the importance of developing friendships at, every stage of your life, and not just with people who are exactly like you, but with a range of people, and, the importance of that sort of solidarity between friends. Because I know like my friends are like my favorite people in the world. And so I really wanted to communicate that through the story.
And I really like how you both made it so they're not perfect, like they make mistakes, but they can still come together and continue with the relationship, which I really enjoyed. And what is your definition of representation in literature, and why is it important? Let's start with Ms. Daven.
Sure, yeah. So for me, I think representation in literature is a couple things. Part of it is, having the books out there that have stories that cater to a whole bunch of different kids. I mean, I know when I was growing up, most of the books I read were by white authors about white kids. Couldn't really relate. It was just kind of like, okay, I guess this is like what people write about. And so it's been so cool as I've gotten older to see so many books about kids and young adults who look like me, by people who look like me, and seeing the representation not just of race but also of like gender and sexuality, and seeing the amount of like queer books that are becoming popular. And then I think also representation, we do talk a lot about making sure people have a seat at the table. But I think more than that, like we want people to be able to have access to publishing, both as a writer and in other careers, which has historically been a very exclusive, very white space. But I think it's less even having a seat at the table and more that we're, building the table from scratch to actually create a space where not just, we hire more Black agents and throw them into this space that's not safe for them, but, really looking beyond like the face value of representation and building publishing in this industry in a way that is better for more people.
I really love that answer. Thank you. And
I just like agreed with it all because it was such a fantastic answer. Yeah. Oh God, I don't know if I can just like add more to that. I think there's a long way to go. I think a lot has been done, and I am so glad to see more people of colors, Black, Indigenous people being able to write books. I do like that now there's a lot of more, in general, there's more Hispanic writers, there's more Asian writers, but I think there's still a long way to go, as Daven mentioned. To be able to write, a lot of people say, I was like, I'm so happy that your book has queer characters and Mexican characters and Black characters and in general. And I was like, but that's just the people I surround myself with. I wrote it because those are my type of friends. That's being queer or I'm bisexual and all that other stuff. But we need more of that. Just because I write it doesn't mean that there's enough representation. I think there's always ways to improve, as Daven mentioned, not only having a seat at the table, but recreating the whole table from scratch. God, that was such a good answer. And again, when I was growing up, I saw a lot of white Anglo-Saxon writers writing books, and that's what I would read. That's what I would see in high school. And it wasn't until I was in college that I was writing one of my books that with a white Anglo-Saxon main character and a main love interest. And I would always write the Hispanic characters as side characters because, yes, I want to put mi familia and all that other stuff in there as well. And then one day, I guess it just clicked to me. It was like, why don't I write what I know, like the people that I'm with, because that's what I want to see. And I'm just glad that we're taking a couple steps towards that direction in general.
Definitely. There's a lot of progress going on, which makes me happy. Okay, for the next question, is there a special event in your novels that stands out to you as the most memorable? And let's start with Ms. Daven.
Sure. Let's see. This is a pretty small moment, but usually when I'm asked to read from my book, this is the scene I read. But it's when Ethan and Juniper, in the middle of their big adventure, and Juniper takes Ethan to roll down Alligator Hill. And it's this very brief, just like a couple pages moment. But to me, it really kind of represents Ethan sort of letting go of everything that's holding him back, in his friendship with Juniper, in being his full self in this town. And he just really goes for it. And that's also one of the scenes that changed the least from when I originally wrote it. So I really feel like it's a real reflection of my 17-year-old self as a writer.
Yeah, it was really vivid. I could just imagine myself there too, rolling down the hill. And how about Ms. Shay?
There's, I don't know if I can cheat and say two scenes, but one of the ones that stand out most to me to my own book is there's this part where Ethan and Soul are sneaking in an old museum / church where they just have like this weird heart-to-heart about themselves and sexuality and relationships. And that's one. And the other one is a call of Soledad and her mom towards the end of the book, where she kind of just opens up about everything that's been happening and just kind of like cries her heart out with her mom in there. And that one sticks out a lot to me because I've done that a couple of times with my own mother. But for sure, Ethan and Soul in the church / museum is a big one in the archive.
Yeah, it was just really real how they didn't have all the answers, but they're still trying, and it was just reflection of real life. So yeah. And can you please tell us your experience working with Wattpad and sharing your stories? And Ms. Shay.
So Wattpad's been interesting because I used to write my stories in a little notebook when I was in high school. I came to the US technically in 7th grade. I didn't enter English classes until the 8th grade. And I wanted to write. I used to write in half English, half Spanish, but writing in English helped me a lot in general to learn English. So I would come up with my own little stories in my notebook and pass it around for my friends to read. And one of my friends, eventually, after she gave me back my notebook, she's like, "Hey, you're really good at writing stories. Have you ever thought of Wattpad?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." And then when I was 15 or so, that's when I figured out what it was. I created 3 or 4 accounts, deleted them right after I created them. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to do it. And then from there on, I remember when I first got my first 1,000 reads, I was freaking out. And that was senior year of high school. I was like, oh my God, I'm famous. and from there on, it just took off. I would write there all the time. It helped me out a lot creatively and emotionally in a way. And then I got through college. One of my books got very popular. And got a bunch of reads, and then I just kind of grew distant from it, so I decided to take it down, and then that's when Historically Inaccurate came around when I graduated college, and I was trying to figure my life out. But Wattpad has always been very nice to me. They're very good in general. The readership and being able to see what people think of your book as you're writing, it's interesting because if you let it, and this is what happened with my old book, it can kind of shape the way that your story goes. But at the same time, it also helps a lot because whenever you don't know kind of where the story goes, you have people putting in their thoughts and the ideas. And I think that's an interesting way to go about writing and being creative. That's not necessarily something that you used to get back in the old days, unless you had workshops, which I did when I was in college. It's a different feeling. I really like the whole being able to communicate with your readers as you're doing it.
That's awesome. And how about your experience, Ms. Daven?
Yeah, similar to Shay, I've been writing on Wattpad since I was like 14 years old, maybe, since like my freshman year of high school. And really like some of my closest friends now are people that I met writing on Wattpad, whose stories I read, who read my stories. And, this was like 10 years ago when it was very much like, do not talk to strangers on the internet. I mean, I guess it's still probably like that, but like, it was very much like, but some of my closest friends and people who read my earliest drafts and who I complain about writing to are people from Wattpad. And as I went on and my stories became more popular, I got more involved with Wattpad, like the company and their like talent agents and the studios team, and then eventually the books team. And I would say that was, I think, a huge plus to my experience with publishing, because I know that as an industry, it can often feel very isolating. It's very difficult, finding an agent and all of these things. But what was really great is that like I knew the people on the Wattpad team. I'd known them since I was like 19. They were reading my books. They were, actively engaging in my work. And so it was just really special to be able to work with people that I knew personally on the Wattpad team to actually develop my story into something that was publishable.
That's awesome. Thank you. And for the next question, what are the most impactful words or feedback that one of your readers on Wattpad has shared with you? And let's start with Ms. Shay.
That's a great question, because the first one that I think is what people describe update. But oh God, there's so many. I remember one time this person wrote me like a full-on essay on my other story, Sleep Deprived, which I just renamed it recently to the old book title. And they just talked to me about how they were thankful that I was able to talk about, because that book deals a lot with depression and post-traumatic PTSD. And they just went on and they're like, you helped me when I was reading this book. I was in the hospital and I was dealing with so many things, and your writing helped me get through that all. And that just meant a lot to me, because is being able to write and share your art and something that you're passionate about, and someone else reaching out to them and telling you that means a lot to them, and they also felt that either passion or they just felt that connection to the work that you created, like you did, means a lot to me. And that's what also sometimes just keeps me writing.
Thank you. And how about Ms. Daven?
Yeah, I can't think of a particular comment or moment, but like very similar to Shay. I mean, especially when I first started writing and I was like 14 or 15 on Wattpad, and I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and people would comment or message me and be like, hey, like, this is like, I see myself in this story. This story is like, it like changed me in these ways. And that was just like really wild and so cool to see. And I mean, especially, you know, now that my book is out in the world, you know, hearing from like teachers who say like, oh, I want to teach this book in my class, and librarians who are like, I recommend this to kids, and from like, you know, actual teens like you who are reading it. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's really, really special.
And what advice would you give to authors out there who want to publish their books? And we'll start with Ms. Daven.
Let's see. I mean, I think the publishing industry is complicated and it's confusing, and it's so easy to get discouraged and like stuck in the weeds of thinking about like, oh God, but like, you know, will I ever do this? Will I ever do that? And I think like, for me, I feel like I was able to like get to the point of publishing and now feel the ability to like sustain that, because I started writing first for myself, and because I built a really strong community of other writers. I think like that's really huge, especially in an industry that's so big and can feel so isolating, to really, you know, find other writers, whether you find them through online spaces or in-person spaces or what. Just to have those people who are, you know, cheering you on and who you can cheer on, and who are there to read your books for you, read your query letters for you, and like really, you know, kind of push through this together.
And how about you, Ms. Shay?
Yeah, something similar to Daven. I would say for sure, find your people. Find people that you like to write with, find people that like to read your books, and write the book that you want to write. I think that's very important to be able to, because a lot of the time, and a lot of the friends who I make throughout life or just in my regular job, they're like, oh, I want to write this book, but it's not what the market wants right now. And I understand that a lot of the time, yes, market is important, but at the same time, for my book to get from the starting stages to the end stages, to the agent, to the publisher, to the marketing and all that other stuff, you should be able to love the story that you're crafting, because you're going to be reading that story over and over and over again. you should be happy and you should be passionate about what you're making, and you should be able to reach out to your friends, to your various friends, whether that's online, whether it's in person and workshops, and be like, I made this. And yeah, if you're passionate about something, if you want to write, I want to write vampires fighting aliens, but no one has really done that before. I want to read this story. This sounds weird, but okay, go ahead and write it. Follow your passion. Do that, and make sure you surround yourself with people that are passionate like you and want to see you succeed, and you're there for them as well.
And that's really good advice. Thank you. And thank you so much for today's great conversation, Ms. Shay and Ms. Daven. You've been watching the Bay Area Book Festival. I would invite you to visit the schedule of events and youth events pages to see all the great subject-based conversations that are forthcoming in this virtual festival. And if you haven't already, you can still buy Ms. Daven's book, The Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones, and Ms. Shay's book, Historically Inaccurate, through Green Apple Books, that I would highly recommend. Thank you so much to Green Apple, the Bay Area Book Festival, and Cinnamongirl for creating the space for us to have great conversations like this one. Tune in for the next section with hip-hop history champions Jeff Chang and Dave Cook, aka Davey D. Have a great day, everyone, and please continue to stay safe.